Welcome back to the channel. Thursday, August the 29th of 2024. Today we're going to talk about emotional intelligence as it relates to coaching. We'll try to get a video made on Monday of next week and try to get back on the Monday Express as best I can. It's been one of them weeks. So when we're talking about emotional intelligence of coaches, you have a variety of professional and collegiate coaches who you might have heard of they can be very bombastic, they can be very intense. Some of them are very ethereal and very thinking man types of people. The bombastic types, you got your Frank Martins, you got your Gary Williams back in the day. These are basketball coaches. You got the general from Indiana, Bobby Knight. There's other people, but they're very volatile. And what ends up happening is their teams play. They play with a certain degree of anger and frenetic pace, because they tend to mirror their coach. You get coaches like Mike Krzyzewski, and you see that they're much calmer, and they're more thinking out on the court, and like I said, it follows from your leader. It really starts from the practice floor, practice field, whatever sport you're in. It's going to be incumbent upon a coach to figure out what motivates and what demotivates each of your athletes. And those things can be very unique. And then sometimes you get a team, everybody's motivated by the same thing, and that makes it a lot easier. But what you have to do is you have to know you have to know what they're in it for. And that should be an easy answer. And if it's not, then you gotta create a situation where everybody's moving towards the correct answer, which is to win as a team, championships, things of that nature. But as a coach, you're also trying to create growth on the individual level. So you also want to coach them into being better people. So you're really looking at levels of anxiety. You're looking at a lot of different personality traits that each of these athletes might have. The younger they are, the more the volatility in these things. Pardon, had something coming in. So the more the volatility in these things, and that's certainly the way that it works. So you wanna basically get very early on, figure out what those things are, and find out how to motivate them. Find out what that growth track needs to look like. Some are a little less mature, some are more mature. Try to coach some of each up, and that's what an emotionally intelligent coach is going to do. As it relates to in-game management, it kind of goes, it follows onto the court, onto the field, wherever. In that, you got to know based on certain times in the game what they need. Your team's playing tight. You might have to throw some jokes in there. Your team's playing too loose. You might have to get a little more stern. They're acting like idiots out there. You might have to really get into them a little bit. It should be a rare thing for a coach to yell and scream and act like a fool. I think there's a place for that, but it ain't often, and I think it's done a little too much. So that's my 2 cents on it. So you really, to recap, you really need to go individually with your team. Go individually figuring out what they're into it for, what their levels of anxiety are, what are their mental blocks. You get like on a basketball court, you might have a kid that's just afraid of free throws. can shoot from 20 feet out, but has a problem with free throws. So you gotta play psychology a little bit with some of them. You gotta figure out what motivates, what demotivates, and then take that out on the floor. And when you're under control as a coach, they're under control as players a lot more often. And I think that's what they're looking for. And not only the players, but also the parents, the supporters, the boosters, all the constituencies that coach has to have are watching to see that you've got yourself buttoned up. So that's important also. It isn't as important as just imposing your will on someone. That's lazy. You really have to work at the psychology of these things if you want to get the most out of your team. If you don't, you're going to tend to have one of those teams that tends to play down to their competition or chokes in big moments because they don't have that emotional intelligence hasn't been pushed into them. It hasn't been modeled for them, and so they have nothing to go by but their own, especially teenagers, their own willingness to panic and their immaturity and their instability at that age. So I think that's why you really have to take an active role from a psychology standpoint with your team. That requires emotional intelligence as a coach, but you breathe that into them. Breathe that into them, and I think that pays dividends when it comes towards the end of the season, or when you get some of these kids 2, 3, 4 years in a row, and that just continues to get better and better. You get a family-oriented program. You have leadership roles. Some of those leaders can police the younger athletes, because any family has a pecking order. So you're able to do those things when you know your athletes better. When you just roll the ball out there and say, go here, here's where we're going to go, here's our play, go play in traffic. That's not the way to do it, and it's done way too often. So I hope that's helpful. Very, very minor, very, very specific topic today. It's not a lot to say, but enough to maybe start a conversation. So again, I would like to see more conversation on the channel. A little bit more banter back and forth. I think it would be very valuable, especially if any of you are coaches, or if you're a coach and you're going through past episodes and you're coming back to see us. I'd love to see the comments coming in later. If I can't get them sooner, I'll definitely take them later. But this is how it works to get with the channel. You like, you comment, you subscribe, you hit the ringy dingy, and then you say all, so all that digital goodness comes into your inbox. And then you watch it and you're delighted, even though it's mediocre, but it still delights you. So you send it far and wide to anyone that you think could be either amused or find it helpful in any way, shape, or form, because that'll help us grow the channel and have a larger conversation. That's what I'm looking to do. So I wish you a fantastic Labor Day weekend coming up, and I will endeavor to get this next one out on Monday, on the Labor Day holiday. And until then, peace out, me homies. See ya.